All these features are going to be rolling out to Google Photos users in the next couple of months. The reason we are able to do this is because for a while we've been investing in the scale of our computational architecture. This is why last year we talked about our tensor processing units. These are special purpose machine learning chips. These are driving all the product improvements you're seeing today. We've made it available to our cloud customers. Since the last year, we've been hard at work, and today I'm excited to announce our next generation TPU 3.0. These chips are so powerful that for the first time, we've had to introduce liquid cooling in our data centers. And we put these chips in the form of giant pods. Each of these pods is now 8x more powerful than last year. It's well over 100 petaflops. And this is what allows us to develop better models, larger models, more accurate models, and helps us tackle even bigger problems. And one of the biggest problems we are tackling with AI is the Google Assistant. Our vision for the perfect assistant is that it's naturally conversational, there when you need it, so that you can get things done in the real world. And we are working to make it even better. We want the assistant to be something that's natural and comfortable to talk to. And to do that, we need to start with the foundation of the Google Assistant, the voice. Today, that's how most users interact with the assistant. Our current voice is codenamed Holly. She was a real person. She spent months in our studio, and then we stitched those recordings together to create voice. But 18 months ago, we announced a breakthrough from our DeepMind team called WaveNet. Unlike the current systems, WaveNet actually models the underlying raw audio to create a more natural voice. It's closer to how humans speak. The pitch, the pace, even
Tens o link para o evento?
We want to get all of that right.
Sim.
So we
Acho que partilhaste no Facebook, não foi? Partilhaste no Facebook.
Sim, mas tenho aqui porque
Eu vou fazer um live.
um live?
É.
Stream?
É.
I'm your Google Assistant.
Welcome to Shoreline Amphitheater. We hope you enjoy Google I/O.
Back to you, Sundar.
Our goal is one day to get the right accents, languages, and dialects right globally. WaveNet can make this much easier. With this technology, we started wondering who we could get into the studio with an amazing voice. Take a look.
A type of North African semolina and granules made from crushed durum wheat. I want to tell you with sweet eyes and a fluffy tail who likes my haiku. Happy birthday to the person whose birthday it is. Happy birthday to you. John Legend. He would probably tell you he don't want to brag, but he'll be the best assistant you ever had. Can you tell me where you live? You can find me on all kinds of devices. Phones, Google Home, and if I'm lucky, in your phone.
That's right, John Legend's voice is coming to the assistant. Clearly, he didn't spend all the time in the studio answering every possible question that you could ask. But WaveNet allowed us to shorten the studio time, and the model can actually capture the richness of his voice. His voice will be coming later this year in certain contexts, so that you can get responses like this.
Good morning, Sundar. Right now, the mountain view is 65 with clear skies. Today, it's predicted to be 75 degrees and sunny. At 10 a.m., you have an event called Google I/O Keynote. Then, at 1 p.m., you have Margarita. Have a wonderful day.
I'm looking forward to 1 p.m. So John's voice is coming later this year. Really excited we can drive advances like this with AI. We are doing a lot more with the Google Assistant. And to talk to you a little bit more about it, let me invite Scott onto the stage.
Kevin, that was great. We haven't made your Google work yet, so you have to say hey.
Hey Google! Hey Google! Facebook's here. Hey Google, play the next episode.
Play the crowd on Netflix.
All chanted. Okay.
That was great. Can we say one where you say hey Google?
Hey Google, play my phone.
Mine's now.
Hey Google. Okay, let's just go do Google. I'm sure the engineers would love to update everything.
Hi, what can I do for you?
Two years ago, we announced the Google Assistant right here at Idaho. Today, the Assistant is available on over 500 million devices, including phones, speakers, headphones, TVs, watches, and more. It's available in cars from more than 40 auto brands, and it works with over 5,000 connected home devices, from dishwashers to doorbells. And people around the world are using it every single day. For example, we launched the Assistant in India last year, and the response has been incredible. Daily usage there has tripled since the beginning of the year. Now, by the end of this year, the Assistant will support 30 languages and be available in 80 countries. We've made great progress, but we're just getting started. Today, we're going to share with you some important ways that the Assistant is becoming more naturally conversational and visually assisted in order to help you do more and get higher. Now, as you heard from Sundar, new voices that you can choose from to make the Google Assistant your own are an important aspect of making the conversation with your assistant more natural. But to be a great conversation partner, the assistant needs to deeply understand the social dynamics of conversation. For example, let's be honest, it gets a little annoying to say, hey Google, every time I want to get my assistant's attention. This grandma, who you might have seen on YouTube, was definitely feeling that.
In Pleasure Beach tomorrow, there will be showers with a high of 65 and a low of 56.
Well, the assistant eventually worked for her, but it shouldn't be so hard. Now you won't have to say, hey Google, every time. Check this out. Hey Google, did the Warriors win?
Yes, the Warriors won 118-92 last Sunday against the Pelicans.
Nice. When's their next game?
The Warriors' next game is today at 7:30 p.m., where they will be playing the Pelicans.
Great. It's going to be fun to watch tonight. Hey, remind me to find my Kevin Durant jersey when I get home.
Sure, I'll remind you when you get home.
Now notice that I was able to have a natural back and forth conversation with my assistant without having to repeat hey Google for every follow-up request. Even more helpful, my assistant could understand when I was talking to Ed versus when I was talking to all of you. We call this continued conversation, and it's been a top feature request. You'll be able to turn it on in the coming weeks. Yeah? All right. So let's say it's almost game time. Hey Google, turn on the Warriors game and start the popcorn maker.
Sure, here's the Golden State Warriors game on YouTube TV and turning the popcorn maker on.
Oh, and can you dim the lights in the family room and in the kitchen?
Sure, dimming the lights in the family room and in the kitchen.
Now you'll notice that in both of these examples, I asked for multiple things at once. Something that feels really natural for us, but it's very difficult for computers to understand. It's something we call multiple actions, and we're rolling out this capability in the Assistant now. Now you might think, come on, it's easy. Just look for the and. But it's not always so straightforward. In this example, even though it has the word and, it's not two requests. It's actually just one. But here, Even though it looks very similar, the assistant has to break it apart to form the two requests. In linguistics, it's called coordination reduction. Now, multiple actions can get way more complicated, so just for fun, hey Google, who was the governor of California when Kevin Durant was drafted, and what team drafted him?
Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor in 2007. Kevin Durant was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics.
All right, just in case you were wondering. All right. So, next, we've also been working on improving the conversation with the Google Assistant for families. Last fall, we launched our family experience for the Google Assistant. It provides family-friendly games, activities, and stories. We continue to grow our library, and families have listened to over 130,000 hours of children's stories in the last 2 months alone. Now, as we continue to improve the experience for families, a concern that we've heard from many parents, including people on the team who have children, is are kids learning to be bossy and demanding when they can just say, hey Google, to ask for anything they need? It's not a simple area, but one step that we've been working on is something we call Pretty Please. Some of the parents on the team have been testing it out with their families. Take a look.
Hey Google, stop your voice from.
Daddy, you forgot to say please. Okay, Google.
Thanks for saying please.
Play and dance, please.
What a nice way to ask me.
Tell me inside, please.
Thanks for asking so nicely. Once upon a time, there was a wacky walrus.
Please help me with my homework. Please, please.
You're very polite.
I know.
So the assistant understands and responds to positive conversation with polite reinforcement. Now, we've been consulting with families and child development experts, and we plan to offer Pretty Please as an option for families later this year. So, with new voices for your assistant, continued conversation, multiple actions, and Pretty Please, AI is helping us make big strides so everyone can have a more natural conversation with their assistant. And now I'd like to introduce Lillian, who's going to share some exciting things that we're doing, bringing voice and visual assistants together.
Well, thanks, Scott, and good morning, everyone. Over the last couple of years, the Assistant has been focused on the verbal conversation that you can have with Google. Today, we're going to unveil a new visual canvas for the Google Assistant across screens. This will bring the simplicity of voice together with a rich visual experience. I'm going to get you to come up because we're going to be switching to a lot of visual demos. We gave you an early look at our new smart displays at CES in January. We're working with some of the best consumer electronic brands. And today I'm excited to announce that the first smart displays will go on sale in July. Today I'll show you some of the ways this new device can make your day easier by bringing the simplicity of voice with the flexibility of a touchscreen. So let's switch over to the live demos. Now this is one of the Lenovo smart displays. The ambient screen integrates with Google Photos and keeps me pictures of my kids, Bella and Hudson. Those are really my kids. Best way to start my day every morning. Now because the device is controlled by voice, I can watch videos or live TV with just a simple command. This makes it so easy to enjoy my favorite shows while multitasking around the house. Hey Google, let's watch Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Okay, playing Jimmy Kimmel Live, please.
Lá para abrir, se constantes, boa tarde a todos. Obrigado por estarem em mais iOS. Sejam bem-vindos. Como vocês devem saber, já devem ter visto, isto está a ser, em parte, organizado pelo Gdg Braga com a organização dos speakers que vão ser hoje, o José, o Diego e o Luís. Para quem ainda não segue o Google Gdg Braga, tem aqui os nossos contactos, podem nos seguir no GitHub. Ainda não temos muita atividade de formação militar. Podem nos seguir no GitHub. Já agora, quem ainda não fez check-in, se não se importar, pode fazer durante este evento, para nós também sabermos o que tem a ter, para irmos catalisando e podemos seguir também a nossa atividade no Facebook. Ora, o que é o Google I.O.? Já a maior parte de vocês sabem, estão aqui, já devem saber. Está a decorrer o Google I.O. 2018, começa mais ou menos nesta altura do ano. Vamos no segundo dia já, acaba amanhã, está a decorrer na Califórnia. São 3 dias cheios de atividades, seja talks, tabulados, demos, montes de conteúdo, montes de novidades. Às vezes grandes novidades, outras vezes mais improvements que propriamente novidades. Tem contado com mais de 7 mil developers anualmente e podem contar com montes e montes de notícias ou de novidades que têm a ver. Isto são algumas imagens do evento de ontem. Como ainda vamos também no segundo dia, ainda há muito para descobrir. A maior parte de grandes coisas já foram ontem mais ou menos descobertas durante a keynote e nas talks a seguir. Mas ainda há muitas coisas para descobrir. Queria só fazer mesmo um resumo muito rápido daquilo que se tem falado no último dia. A maior parte das coisas vocês já devem saber, já devem estar a par, já devem ter visto o vídeo. Basicamente este ano, mais uma vez, o foco é AI, Machine Learning, Deep Learning, AI. A Google tem feito grandes investimentos na parte de inteligência artificial e Machine Learning e basicamente hoje em dia está por trás de todos os grandes produtos que eu sei que seja o Google Fotos, seja o Google Maps, seja um revamp do Google News que eles estão a fazer, seja improvements como Assistant, seja improvements self-driving cars que eles estão a fazer na América e o novo Android Pia. Só um resumo do que se falou ontem. O CEO abriu a keynote quase a falar em improvements na área da saúde, por exemplo, na área da computadora, com toda a infraestrutura da AI por trás, facilitar a detecção de doenças mais cedo, facilitar também a ajuda de médicos e ajudar também o diagnóstico de novas doenças em concreto. Um grande resultado. Depois podem ver também, e eu acho que iam lançar um paper destes conteúdos, desta investigação durante o dia de ontem, certeza que deve ser interessante. Algumas das principais apps deles também sofreram, ou vão sofrer durante este mês e meio, updates com grandes improvements, seja o Google Fotos, mais alguns improvements que já começaram a passar. O Google Maps também, o grande foco a ser algumas melhorias no Walkman Navigation, nomeadamente neste momento não é muito intuitivo quando alguém pega um telemóvel numa cidade que desconhece as instruções que a aplicação dá. Para quem não conhece a cidade, normalmente não dizem nada. Por isso, eles agora tentam mostrar todos os conteúdos que têm de mapa, todos os conteúdos que têm da Street View, mais a visão da câmera, para tentar ser uma coisa mais intuitiva e mais útil. Além disso, também Machine Learning, Deep Learning, por trás de uma nova funcionalidade do Gmail, Smart Compose. À semelhança do, se calhar, a maior parte de vocês devem usar algum teclado do género, seja do Google, seja SwiftKey ou até iOS, todas aquelas sugestões e ajudas que eles dão, mas aqui elevado a outro nível, ou seja, começamos a escrever uma frase, sempre conteúdo que a Google reconhece no seu nosso, e ele completa logo a frase toda e ajuda muito mais fácil de completar e escrever em e-mails, por exemplo. Há também um revamp da Google News. Eles chegaram na aplicação, tentaram também outra vez por ajudar com a AI por trás para selecionar melhor notícias que têm acesso e também no Google Lens. Pronto, muito rapidamente, Google Assistant, grandes improvements também para as telemóveis que suporte. Android P, também algumas melhorias, especialmente no nível de bateria e também a nível de apps e gestão de apps, seja na integração do home screen com o próprio drawer de apps, seja na integração do sistema com os próprios apps em si e as actions que se podem fazer. Tem também outra feature, que é a Short, que é uma tentativa da Google de melhorar basicamente o equilíbrio que nós temos entre a vida, digamos, real e a vida digital. Isto é o primeiro passo, não sei que nós temos mais monitorização e controle. podem haver mais novidades nos próximos dias. Por fim, outro grande foco na Google é a Waymo, que é a empresa que está a tratar, ou que tem estado com mais foco na parte de self-driving cars, e eles já têm um piloto a correr no fim de algum tempo, então vão aumentar ainda mais o piloto que já está a correr lá, com mais carros, mais suporte, e basicamente nos próximos tempos o foco deles vai ser improvements em predictions, ou seja, prever condições técnicas do que pode vir a acontecer, e improvements na perception, ou seja, conhecer melhor o que está à volta e assim agir de acordo. Pronto, isto foi um resumo muito rápido, também para entrar por esse conteúdo todos é preciso muito mais tempo, vocês também já devem estar de apresentar alguns deles. Podem seguir todos os conteúdos, todas as conversas, todas as talks neste material. E pronto, por isso hoje saímos um bocadinho destas novidades e vamos falar de outras. Hoje vamos ter a companhia do José Pita, do Luís Panteira e do Diego. Por isso vou passar a palavra ao José Pita. Aqui.
Meter aqui o sistema.
Deixa-me só. Vou mudar só aqui. Espera aí. Acho que não precisa usar disso, no princípio.
O que é que isto não está a mostrar no meio?
Não. Este computador não é para nós.
O que é que se passa?
Não está a mostrar no meu? Morreu para a vida.
O que é que está a acontecer? Ficaste sem bateria?
Acho que não. Agora estava a funcionar.
Não sei se há algum médico na sala. Ficaste sem bateria. Ei, ficaste.
Sério?
Espera aí. Pifou o computador.
Bom, então.
Pronto.
Posso começar?
Oi, já está. Já está. Is alive.
E ainda tem bateria, vês? Não sei o que é que se passou. Espera aí.
Pois aqui. Deixa eu tentar ver.
Dá. Agora sim.
Ok. Espera aí, mas isto passa-se aqui qualquer coisa.
Desligou-se, não consegues desligar o som daí? Está a fazer o live stream daqui.
Sai daqui. Queres tirar daqui? É isso.
Vou lá ver se é desta.
Bem, José.
Apresentação sem problemas técnicos não é apresentação, não é? Estás-me a dificultar a vida. Filho.
Está difícil. Acho que é só. Faz-te bom.
Não vejo o botão do slide. O que é que está nesta resolução tão esquisita, pá?
Mesmo assim não está a aparecer. Provavelmente eles vão Google é. Queres iniciar a apresentação? Diz? É iniciar. Ou seja, estamos a iniciar a apresentação.
Pois, era isso que não aparecia? Ah. Agora sim. Agora só precisávamos que isto estivesse a mostrar em condições.
Pronto. Não estou a correr tão bem.
Arrebentou.
Ficou só. Tu queres mirror?
Dá.
Se calhar tens de escolher.
Vamos lá ver se é desta. Ora então, boa noite ou boa tarde. Sou José Pita. Uma pequena introdução agora em português ao grupo, depois todas as palestras vão ser em inglês. Nós decidimos fazer este grupo do Portugal Testing Tour. Basicamente, conhecemos todos em meetups, todos somos speakers, então decidimos fazer um testing tour. Este é o nosso primeiro. Tivemos ontem em Lisboa, hoje aqui em Braga e amanhã vamos ao Porto. Eu e o Luís somos testers, o Diego é developer mais na área de automation e vamos ver se conseguimos ensinar ou para que vocês aprendam alguma coisa nova sobre testing. So, as I was saying, my name is José Pita. I'm a QA engineer at Metropolis Lab. Metropolis Lab is a mobility applications development studio started by SEAT. We are based in Barcelona, and our main focus is to help people move in a more efficient and green way. Basically, our main effort or our main goal is to eliminate this scenario. I entered Barcelona and also Lisbon and Porto in the morning, and I see like 80% or 70% of the cars have like one person inside. That for me makes no sense. So by creating applications with ride sharing, car sharing, and in the same mobility way, we want to improve the flow of people and at the same time help the environment. This is some of the applications that we have. The one in the middle is the only one that we already have in production. Basically, it collects all the data from the city of Barcelona. It's all based on open APIs, and we have information for charging points for electrical cars, points of interest for tourists, bike stations for the bicycles of the city. And the other ones, this one is a bus sharing application provided by the cities, and that one is a ride sharing application, which if you have a car and you do the same trip every day, you can just post on the application, and then you can get some money from the people that ride with you, and we eliminate some cars in the road. We were created by SEAT, which is a very big company, but we are just 10 people, at least right now. We want to hire 10 more people this year. And if you are interested in joining us, talk to me. We are hiring QAs, Java and Kotlin developers, and also iOS in Swift. The best thing about working for Metropolis is that we are funded by a big company, but we are a small and agile team. So we can use whatever technologies, even we are using some Firebase technologies that are still in beta, and we can use it because we can do whatever we want. We don't have any major company forcing us to do things. This is our offices in Barcelona, just by the beach. It's really cool. If you want more information, you can go to the website metropolis-lab.io and get to know us better. So my talk is going to be based on how to progress your career, not only as a QA, but more focused on how I did it in order to progress and improve my career. This is what I did. Doesn't mean that it's going to work for you, but you know, I think they are good ideas, so I want to share with you guys. I'm going to talk a little bit about waterfall versus agile. Does anyone here still work in waterfall? No? That's amazing.
No, there's some people there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Didn't see no one.
Raise your hands if you use waterfall.
So, how it all started. This is my first computer. It was 1995. It was a compact Presario with a 486 processor. I was 10 years old when I got it. I was installing Windows every single week because I was always trying out new stuff and always breaking it. And I don't know if many of you remember, these are some disks. And to install Windows, it was like 30 or 40 different disks. It was insane. I had to break all the things methodology since the beginning, so I was just destined to be a tester. When it came the time to pick the university course, was quite easy, computer science. The main thing that I learned was how to get information, how to Google it. So one big thing that you need to learn is not just going on Google and hitting the first or the second hit and just copy paste the code and apply it. You need to view the code, you need to analyze it, and you need to make sure that it actually will work in your application. So after 5 years of responsible behavior, I started working at a big company using Waterfall, and I was hired to build a test framework for them. They were using Test Complete, which is a very expensive tool, and was using a really old JavaScript. They bought the tool because basically they wanted to use the recording playback part of the tool, but I tell you, it just doesn't work. If anyone tells you that recording playback works for testing, it doesn't. The main reason why they chose the tool was because they didn't have any QAs or testers with programming knowledge, and they didn't want them to lose time or to learn. And that for me was insane because there was a room next to us with 30 developers, so why not? And of course, we were using Waterfall, so that was insane. So for the ones that don't know, this is how Waterfall works. Basically, we have the product team, which writes all the requisites and designs, then sends the information to the developers. The developers code the code and the application, and then they send it to the testers. After they send it to the testers test the application, and they send the bugs back to the developers. This would happen every single month. The tester would take the bugs to the developers would go insane, and the managers would fight between them. It was mayhem. In contrary, Agile, it's like the whole team working towards the major goal or the major objective. So as you see here, this is an Agile team, let's call it, and we have developers, we have designers, we have product owners, product managers, business analysts, and QAs inside the team, not in a separate room, totally like working against each other. So as you see, I was really happy at that company, so I decided I needed to move. So what I did was, first, I went online and I went to all the job boards like IT Jobs and LinkedIn, and I started seeing what the biggest companies were asking from QAs and testers. So after some research, I saw that Selenium was the main tool that everyone was using and everyone was going after. So what I did was I just went online and I searched for the best way to study Selenium, and I found everything for free online. And when it goes for Selenium, it goes the same for programming. Everything is for free nowadays, and you can get a lot of contents like blogs and articles, tutorials. You go on YouTube, they teach you everything about the language and the frameworks or tools that you're using, some free books even. So not having money is not an excuse, just need some time and hard work. So once I felt comfortable with Selenium, I started sending CVs like crazy. I went to a lot of interviews and I failed and I repeat again. Sending CVs, going to interviews, fail and repeat. And this helped me because every time I went to an interview and they told me I was not good enough, I asked, well, what am I lacking? So whenever they told me that, I would go online, I would search for that information, and the next interview, I got that information, so I learned a lot about doing this. So after around 6 months doing this, I finally found a job in a really nice agile company, and I was working with Selenium and C#. And when I say to send a lot of CVs, a lot of people tell me, oh, but they are looking for a person with 5 years experience and I only have 3. I still send the CV and I got accepted in one of those job offers because I saw that I was a person that was interested in technology, interested in learning, and they said, okay, so you don't have enough experience, but we are going to basically pay you to learn and you're going to do the job, and that's what happened. Short time after I joined that other company, I went to Bleep. It's a company in Porto. Many of you have heard about it for sure. This was just a small video they have on their website. You can check it out. It's just a 5-second video. After Bleep, I got a job offer to go to Barcelona. This was an amazing company. We had a lot of benefits. I went from a company with 0 benefits working on waterfall. We even had to pay for coffee to go to a company that was paying us to go to retreats. We had free food and everything. So, you know, all the hard work was nice.
Can you explain the business of the company?
No, not now. For the beers. So basically, when I think about giving this talk, this is what I base myself on. I think I have a good career because I started in a horrible company, no benefits whatsoever, really low salary. Then after just 1 year, I joined Bleep, which is a really nice company, and then I get to jump to Barcelona, and now I'm working for Metropolis. They pay me to do these talks, to go to conferences. We have all the benefits I can ask. So, you know, only depends on you. Just go for it. It's worth it. This is the bad part. So, all the things that you have to do during a day's job, you need to learn a lot of things and you need to read a lot of documentation. This is just some of the tools that I've either worked with, I'm working with, or I just read or did some tutorials. And I wanted to do a slide with all the tools, but I had to leave like 20 or 30 because I couldn't fit them all here. So basically, this is what happens to me every single day. I just read and read and read and learn every single day. Because, you know, when someone tells me, hey, you need to do this, and I'm like, well, but I don't know how. Well, learn. And after, you know, a month, a week, 1 year, I get it done. This is a really sad story. Please don't meet this guy. The main objective why I'm giving this talk is to make you go forward, to make you, if you are not good in your company, just move, just learn more and get a better job. This is a guy I was interviewing for a QA position, a junior position, 1 year experience. One guy comes along, he's 41 years old. He has been working for the same company for 15 years, doing the same thing every single day. And I was reading his CV, and I was asking him the questions for the interview, and the guy didn't know anything. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Please don't be this guy. You know, just learn, go to conferences, meetups like this, read blogs, just, you know, keep yourself up to date. Another thing that I really like, and for me it's really valuable as a benefit from the company, is the budget to go to conferences. Who here uses Selenium in a daily basis? So this guy is the creator of Selenium WebDriver, Simon Stewart. We went to a conference in India, and one day we just went to a bar and everyone was having beers. And all these guys are the main contributors to the Selenium WebDriver. And for me, that's like having a beer with an idol, you know, with a guy that built the tool that I'm using every day, that basically pays my salary. Without this tool, I wouldn't be anyone. So, as a summary, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this, is Google it. If someone asks you, just look for the information and just, try to get something done. Waterfall sucks, Agile is awesome. Almost no one here works in Waterfall, but if you know someone that does, and they tell you, oh, I cannot move to Agile because it's really hard, we are a very big company. If you go to this link, we are going to share the slides in the meetup site. If you go to this link, this is a talk about Jess Humble, which is a guy that he created a company, and the company was hired to move one part of the United States department from Waterfall to Agile. So if the United States department can do it, any company in the world can do it. Learn how to code. Well, it's the same thing. If you want to be above the rest of the people, like for example, in the testers world, if you have 70% of the people that just do manual testing, and you do automated testing, you are going to be over that 70%. And you can only automate tests if you know how to code. So as I said before, everything is free in the internet. If you are looking for something to start, go to codeacademy.com. Everything is for free. They have tutorials, and it's really nice, the site, because inside the whole application you have an IDE and you can play with code inside. So you don't need to have your own IDE in your computer. As I said, automation is a big advantage versus manual only tester. Selenium is just one of many open source automation tools. I talk about Selenium because that's what happened to me basically. But if you search on Google open source automation tools, there's a lot of them. For example, right now I'm writing code. I'm writing an automation framework for Metropolis using Appium, which is like Selenium but for mobile. And I didn't know anything, so I went to a conference, that conference in India. I did a workshop, and now I'm doing a framework in Appium. So just Google it, as I said before. English. This is a thing that I see from a lot of colleagues from the university, that I want to hire them to join my company, but everything is in English. Like nowadays, all the companies, even Bleep, and even the company that I joined before Bleep, everything was in English. So if you don't know English, it's the same thing, just learn. Go online, watch movies in English, subtitles in English, go to an English school, whatever you need to get the job done. Never underestimate your skills. What I did about sending the CVs to a job offer that was way above what I had, this is what I mean. Never underestimate your skills, because maybe you are not exactly what they are looking for, but socially you are someone that wants to learn, someone that can work as a team. So they are going to think, okay, so I have this person that is really nice, a social fit for the company, but doesn't have enough skills. But in 6 months to a year, I can have it. So that's perfect. Be inquisitive. Learn how everything works. When you're working in an application, you need to learn how everything works. You are the QA. So the QA, it's in the middle of everything. You work with support people, with marketing people, with developers, with product owners. So you need to know everything about the application they are testing. Because someday, someone is going to come to you with a bug or with a question about how something works, and you need to be the person that knows about it. So even if you don't really understand how it works, at least you need to know where to find that information. Continuous learning process. Of course, this is not easy. A lot of the tools that today are really used, in 1 year from now, nobody's using it again. It happens with front-end frameworks. Like every year that 100 frameworks come along. And so you need to be on top of your game, and you need to keep yourself informed. How I do this? Well, of course, Twitter. I follow the big names in the testing world and also the development world. Books. Some companies they have a budget for books, so take advantage of that. Blogs. The same thing as Twitter. Follow the right people. Go to meetups. Well, you're doing this right already. And conferences, if you can. For example, the first 2 conferences that I did, my company didn't pay for it. I had to ask the vacation days, and I had to pay for my own ticket. but it was totally worth it because I learned a lot. Never stay in your comfort zone. This I just added today because yesterday at the end we were having some beers and one guy comes along and he asked me and Luis, when do I know when it's the right time to move companies? And for me, I have one simple answer. If you are the smartest person in the room, just leave the room. If you are not learning anymore, if you don't feel like you're being challenged, for me, that's a red alert. Of course, a lot of companies can pay you more, and yeah, because you're comfortable, you know what you're doing, then it's up to you to decide, basically. And that's it. As I said before, Metropolis is hiring. Come talk to me at the end. Just send me an email with our CV if you're interested. You can find me on Twitter. This is my email. And I hope I gave you some new information and something that can actually help you in your career. So thank you for coming. Go for it.
Thank you for your presentation, very insightful. Just to clarify, so you think that Agile is the answer for everything?
No, of course not. Nothing is the answer for everything. But if you compare, especially nowadays, be it mobile or web development, you are releasing what? Once a day, 5 times a day, once a week when you're talking mobile. If you're working in waterfall, that doesn't really work, I think. That's my opinion. Because when I was working in waterfall, we were doing releases every 6 months. So.
But you know that there are other 50 ways of developing software, right? It's not only waterfall and agile.
Like what, for example?
V-model.
I don't know that.
Yeah. So my point here is that not every industry is ready for agile. You have critical companies like military, aviation. Where you just can't do agile.
Of course you can. I just showed you. If you go to this link, well, not now because it's already syncing up. If you go to the talk that I have as an example, the U.S. department did it. So I mean.
Yeah, but the U.S. department doesn't build medical devices that deal with people's lives.
I know some people that work at Critical in Coimbra. I don't know if any of you have heard it. They work for the Department of Defense of the United States. They build software for tanks and war machines, and they work in Agile. So.
Yeah, but that depends on the part that they are actually doing. If you're building, let's say, a medical product that is used for surgery, in this case. You will probably not use Agile.
Why not?
Because when you build a critical system, you need to apply methodologies that involve bigger times, and you can't release that frequently.
Yeah, but Agile is not just about releasing. Agile is the way you are working. For example, I saw companies that they release once a year, but they have internal releases every single week or every 2 weeks. You don't need to deploy the software to the customer, to the client. So the company is working in Agile inside the company, and then they do releases whenever they want. Agile is not just about the releases. Agile is how you build the software. It's not about, okay, we have this software and we are not going to deploy in 1 year. It's okay. The software is ready for deployment every 2 weeks. So you deploy whenever you want. It's just about how you are setting up. We can discuss this more at the end.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm not sure if you might be able to answer the question, but it's more on the database infrastructure side. I was wondering if you do use MySQL and what use cases, if you're able to talk about any technical details like database licensing, etc. And if you would play with what other data storage systems.
So I've worked with MySQL, I've worked with SQL Server, I've worked with MongoDB, I've worked with SQLite 3. I never choose, I'm the QA, so I never choose what database application, what database system they are going to use. So I don't have, and also I don't have one thing that I like more or less. It's more about the architecture and the architect that chooses the database. For me, it's just something that I use, you know, to search for information.
On the ride sharing project that you did, will you use storage?
We are using Firebase. We are using either the real-time, the one that is in beta, or the other one. I'm not sure now. I think it's, I'm not sure, but we are using Firebase. Yeah. Anything else?
You make automated tests with Selenium?
With Appium now, but yeah, Selenium in the past. Yeah.
Do the developers have access to those tests during the development, or just in the end, or during the sprint?
So I worked in both ways. At first, it was just the testers. Then when I moved to Bleep, actually the developers were doing the tests because I was the first QA with automation experience. So then when they learned about it, they were like, okay, this is yours. In the first company that I worked for in Barcelona, for example, at first it was totally separate, and then we got all together and we said, okay, so we need code review for the test as well, and also we need the test to be inside the same code repository because of the branching system. So the developers were doing code reviews and the code was in the same code base. So it's up to the company. I don't have a preference. It's up to the company, depends.
Does anybody else have a question?
Who does the code review for the QA?
Right now, it's just, well, I'm the only QA at the company, so no one. But the company I was working before, at first it was just the QAs doing the code reviews of the other QAs. Then the developers started also doing the code reviews. So there's no, as I said before, there's no right or wrong. It's just how, because there's a lot of developers that if you go to them and you say, hey, can you code review this test? And they're like, tests, fuck you. So depends on the company.
Okay.
Just ask me in the end if you have any more questions to restop.
Yeah, we'll
Thank
have
you.
a coffee break in a moment. So if any of you still have any questions, can talk with Jose in a few moments. Thank you.
Olá a todos. Hello everyone. You are laughing in the back. I'm watching you. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm Luis Franqueira. I'm a QA engineer at Uphold. Previously, I've been in a small startup in Porto, and I've been in Mindeira in Porto, and also I've been in Farfetch. That's where I started as a QA engineer. My talk will be about continuous testing. Has anyone here has ever heard about continuous testing? Okay, there's some. You guys don't count because I already did the summer. I talked about this. Okay, so what is continuous testing? Try to think as continuous testing as a mindset and not as a tool that you use, okay? Usually, when this big buzzword is brought on, what people think continuous test is, they relate it immediately to automation. Let's automate everything, let's just do everything automatically, and we are in continuous testing mode and everything is smooth. But that is not exactly it. Okay, automation is part of continuous testing, but it's not exactly it. So, what it is continuous testing for me? I think that continuous testing is a mindset, and you use it as a path to get to continuous quality status, okay, where everything is prevented and you are not reacting to your problems, you are preventing them from happening, okay? So I'm going to go through a series of steps or pillars that I think are the pillars of continuous testing, and then I will sum it up in the end, okay? So the first pillar is the code quality. So the code quality is very important when you are doing code. How do you assure that the code that you make is going to be reusable, and the person that comes next after you did that code, how is that person going to pick up your code and do something with it in terms of maintenance or whatever? There are some strategies like unit tests, code reviews, code quality. Sorry, code quality. So someone was smacking the fingers. Code style guides, whatever. You just need to have a very good code standard and a flawless code, not in terms of bugs, but in terms of the code is very well structured and everyone understands it, okay? So the goal here in this pillar is ensure the code is built correctly, and the tools that run on that code, building the code, and in terms of security or wherever, in terms of performance, everything gives a green light regarding the code. The second pillar, and this is a very important one, pipelines. Pipeline automation is very important. This is where you will remove most of the manual work in terms of deployment in every environment. Where you can, if you have a system where you can deploy your code in every possible environment without having a single human interaction, then you are doing it right. That's the objective of this pillar. What usually happens when there's someone making manual deploys is, for instance, someone is deploying the code, you have a QA, he starts testing it, and what happens is the person that deployed the code realizes that the build number that he deployed on that environment was the previous one and not the correct one, and that's a problem because you already did 100 tests and it was in vain. Or for instance, the person chooses a wrong file in the file system and you are testing and all the tests are failing and you don't understand why, and you are losing valuable time for other things to be done, other important things, of course. And this is a never-ending cycle. So pipelines are very, very important. So the goal of this pillar, sorry, I'm a bit sick, so bear with me. The goal in this pillar is to ensure that the good code that was produced is built and is deployed in whatever environment you want without manual intervention. So in this case, we can this way we can remove all the possibility of manual errors, human errors, basically. The third pillar is application quality. Okay, please do not mistake this as quality assurance. This has nothing to do with quality assurance. Okay, okay, it has some part has to do with quality assurance, but application quality is how do every one of us, as members of a team that develop a product, perceive the product. Sorry, can you give me just a cup of water, please? So, what is exactly application quality? What happens sometimes is that you have a user that has an idea that will use your application. You have a business analyst that has a completely different view of what the user wants. You have a programmer that has another different view, and you have a tester that has another different view. And what this, sorry. what this will bring is will raise the question, you have a good code, you have everything working correctly, but is that what you were supposed to do? Is that what you were supposed to test? Don't know. So at this point, and one of the root causes of these misunderstandings is bad requirements and poorly specified test cases and test requirements. Sorry. And basically, what companies nowadays do is they spend tons of time, and when I say time, I also say money, with automation, so that this view of all the users can be aligned or more aligned, and that won't work because if you do something, it's working perfectly, but it's not what it was expected to be, you need to change it. And this unfortunately costs more money to companies than getting things right in the beginning. So what is the big goal here? I think that everyone in the team must have a common understanding sorry, of what must be developed. Testers, developers, business analysts, ops guys, the guys from the C-levels, everyone must see the product in the same way, and they must understand everything that will be released. They need to have a cohesive vision. Sorry. Oh, this is not very famous. When this happens, there's a very reduced time to value. Whenever you launch a feature in production, the time that it takes that feature to be valuable, it's much smaller, and there's the effort from the team is reduced, and the headaches also reduced. So, and the on-call time. The fourth and last, but not least, pillar is the customer experience. So the customer experience is very important. For me, it's one of the most important ones. Because in order to achieve continuous testing, you can have half of some of the others, but if you don't have this, you don't have a product. What this means is, you can have the perfect code, the perfect app, the quality is awesome, but your user or your customer is not using it. So, this doesn't fulfill what you are looking for. I think it's basically it. The big goal here is that we should never underestimate the users that use our platforms. The users are the most important thing. That they are the ones that are giving us what we want. An excellent product, a product that everyone uses, and money, basically, in the end. That's pretty much it. So, summing up everything, whenever you are, whenever you are trying to achieve this, whenever you are trying to achieve this continuous testing state, and you are trying to go through these pillars, and once again, this is a mindset. This is not a framework, okay? This is not something that you can translate into tools or whatever, okay? This is something that you need to have as a mindset. Okay, I'm gonna try to be, or my company is gonna try to be like this. Okay? But whenever you're trying to go here, you need to ask all of these questions that are here on the 4 pillars. For instance, on code quality, did developers create application code correctly? Once again, the code needs to be readable, everyone needs to understand it, and if you fire your entire development team and you hire a new one, the new guys that arrive there, they need to understand. It needs to be a readable code. Can the application code flow across environments without manual intervention? Once again, pipelines are very important to reduce manual errors. This is very, very important. Application quality. The developers create the correct features. What this means is, once again, product quality. Did you build the things right, but did you build the right thing? So it's basically it. And customer experience. Are users perceiving value in the application that you build? And that's pretty much it. So if you have these four pillars, it's continuous testing like a boss, basically. So everything in a development, whether you use Agile or vModel, wherever, you can achieve this. Of course, that with Agile it's more easier to achieve this point of maturity, of course, but I think it's feasible. And once again, this is a mindset, not a framework, okay? I'm gonna say that a lot. And that's it. I don't know. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
You talk about the importance of everybody have the same idea about the application.
Yeah.
I totally agree that, but I have serious problem enforcing that. How do you do that?
This is not enforcement.
But how do you...
This is not enforcement.
How can you be sure that everybody sees the applications the same?
Imagine that we are going to build this remote, okay? Or something like it. And it's me, you, him, and him. We're going to sit together in a room, and we're going to discuss about it, and how we're going to build it. Of course that your idea is going to be different than mine. But we all agree what an awesome product is going to be, and it's not going to be something like this, where you're going to deliver, where this guy is delivering something that this guy is not testing, okay? So you cannot enforce people to have the same vision, but you can make people or ask people to see it as you see it. And I may not agree with you, with your vision, but I understand it. And if I'm a QA and you are a developer and we're going to do it your way, I understand it and I'm going to test it your way. Okay? It's completely different. This is having a vision and not agreeing with it.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
It makes sense, but if not someone tests what I did, exactly the way I did, I have to enforce my idea. Because if the beginning the person disagrees with me.
No, but this is something that you have to decide prior.
That's exactly my point. How do you decide?
You have to agree on some point in the room, everyone together, you have to agree on what we're going to do. You are not going to, you cannot go to develop a feature and decide then and there what you are going to do. At that point, the guy that's going to deploy the code in production needs to understand what's going to be done. The CEO needs to understand. Not the janitor, but just joking. But the tester needs, the developer, the business analyst, okay? Everyone that touches the product and uses it, not uses it, that touches the product, needs to understand how the product is working. This is what code quality means, okay? What product quality means. It means that everyone in your team, although they disagree, they all understand what the product does. You can't have a guy that is working with you in more than 1 year and doesn't know what the product is doing. This is impossible, okay? And you gotta have requirements. Requirements are very important. And test requirements are also very important so that you can understand what the product is doing and what the testers are going to test, okay? This is very important. Either you can use like acceptance criteria, in a Gherkin language, like given, this, then, whatever. But you choose what you want to use, but you cannot go to a development state without everyone touching the product, knowing what the product is going to do. Does it make sense?
Yeah. As I said, I totally agree with you. My problem is that everybody...
Give me a clear example. Because I'm not understanding and I want to answer your question.
I think I know what it means. It's like sometimes you have a business where the vision is not clearly defined. So you have different stakeholders, they have different interests, and then you define a product, and the product vision will be different depending on the stakeholders. And then maybe what will happen is that the product will not meet the expectations of
all the stakeholders?
All the stakeholders.
But that's a problem on the stakeholders. And that's a problem that you need to understand how to correct. Are the stakeholders inside your company or outside? If they are inside, can you do something to fix it? Can you talk to the CEO and tell him we are fucking up the product? Or can you talk to your clients and say, you guys are fucking up the product? Because they are fucking up the product. Don't even think in other ways.
I totally agree with you.
The question is...
My problem is not really a problem. It's how do you make sure that everything goes as it's supposed?
Do you have a QA on your team?
Not only QA, yes.
Sorry? No?
It's not a QA dedicated person, yes.
Yeah, but the QA needs to ask the right questions. The first question that the QA needs to ask in a meeting where some feature is being decided or discussed is, how do I test this? Because when I ask that question as a QA, you as a developer are going to think, how does this guy gonna test this? And he's gonna help you understand better the requirements and how the feature works, and you are going to start asking the right questions, okay? And if you have a big knowledge of the product, you understand where that feature is going to touch, in which areas, and you are starting, those are the requirements and those need to be right down. But shouldn't be the developer. That's something that should already be written down by a business analyst, and those requirements need to be tuned by the development team. The development team should help with that. The business analysts write the requirements because they, as people that did the product, are the ones that probably know better the application and how it works. And a QA usually is the guy that has a user customer vision, or he needs to, and sometimes he can give tips on user experience, for instance, and that's very valuable. But that's something you only achieve when everyone is on the same boat. I cannot tell you more than this because you cannot enforce. This is not something that you're gonna put everyone strapped on a chair and you are going to do this or otherwise, because if you do that, people won't do it the right way. You need to put everyone on the same boat and everyone needs to agree with everything that's going to be done. Or at least disagree, but saying, I disagree with this, but I will do it. But that's a way of doing things. Okay.
I think it helps two things here. If you're building a product for the company or if you're building for another business, you have different approaches. But if you're building your own product and selling it to the end user, then the most important thing here is that you need to go from top down, not bottom up. So top down means the company needs to define the vision and the strategies for the company. And when you are building a product and you have different stakeholders that are saying, oh, I want the product to be very secure, and then you have the guy from user experience that is saying, oh no, we need to do the easiest product in the world. Then you need to use as a reference the vision and the strategy of the company. If the company says that, no, we are going to be the most secure company in the world, that's how you decide things.
Any more questions?
User knows that they want. requirements a long time changing. What is the risk? Is the process to is the whole process to fail?
Sorry, you need to repeat that. If it helps, you can ask in Portuguese and.
If the user knows what
the user knows what he wants.
Yes.
Sure.
But have a risk that something okay, the user not need this, but need another
Needs another thing. That's
or,
why.
Or the requirements
Change. Yeah, sure.
will change. Okay.
That's why.
What is this process? How process to work?
This talk is not about process. Forget process, okay? But I can give you a hint. That's why you use Agile. Agile is a mindset where you define a vision to a place where you want to go, okay? Imagine that you are going on a trip and you say, I'm going to Lisbon, okay? I'm going to Lisbon. You pick up your car and go to Lisbon. But you are arriving to Niagara and you say, no, I want to stay here. If this was a waterfall, you would need imperatively to go to Lisbon. No, you are staying in Niagara. So, Agile is the same thing. You define a vision for your product. You are going towards that vision, but in midway you decided, or you found out that that's not exactly the place that you want to go. You want to change your direction. And with cycling development times, like 2 weeks, delivery product, with the minimum value product, where you develop a small part of the product that is working, that works, you put it on production, then you iterate on it, you can change your vision, or you can adjust your vision very quickly. That's why Agile helps a lot. This is the main mindset, where you are agile, where you change whenever you need. Okay? But this is not about process. We can talk about process offline. Okay?
Okay.
More questions? No?
If any of you still have any questions, you can talk with me.
Yeah, we're gonna have a coffee
break
break now.
So, not after on. We'll do a short break, about 10 minutes. You can grab a snack, you can grab a drink if you want. Over there, we have a bunch of stickers. If you want to grab them, at the bottom of the room, we have some other school gifts. So there's not enough for everybody to pick the same. We're sorry, but we have a few shirts, a few t-shirts. The boys section is on the left, the women's section is on the right. So you can have a snack. We'll meet again here in 2 minutes for the end.
Tirei o.
Estás? Cadê o também? Liga o dele, não é?
Ele tem a.
Ok. Ácidos, o pessoal é mais, às vezes também conhecido como sábios, às vezes apaixonado por ser muito tentado nesse problema. Às vezes, pá, é mesmo whatever.
cena fixe que eu fiz fizeram uma dita de Google, se não era uma cena dessa com speaker pagava 5 euros e depois quando marcava de fazer assim. Mas só a entrada tinhas que dizer o nome e dizer
às vezes,
para forçar a pessoa.
nós aqui costumamos fazer. Nós, às vezes, mas às vezes também o problema é aquele sweet spot, às vezes não funciona ao contrário.
Mas é tal assim.
Eles devolvem.
É melhor teres 10, se não ter igual a 10, que ter 5 e para ser a 10. Depois a nível de tudo, a nível de
nós já temos dessa vez a primeira, estamos a 30 e tal, porque tem que alguém está a voltar a vez. Tem que dar mais umas cenas, vai para 20 e tal por cento. It's getting a little late, so we'll resume this. We have Diego here, talk about Selenium. Hope you enjoy it. So, Diego.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for being here and staying so late. My name is Diego, and I would like to talk slightly about Selenium. I didn't see so many hands raised when Jose asked about Selenium. So, do you use Selenium at least, or do you know what Selenium is? Kind of? You have heard of it at least. So, what I would like to show you this talk is briefly the main concepts, how it works, and then go more into the direction of the infrastructure that it needs to work. So, this is me. I live in Berlin, and in my previous, let's say, career path, I was 100% a developer, and then I switched to testing when I moved to Germany because I had the chance to still do a lot of development, like do coding every single day, but I didn't have to be on call. So I didn't have to be checking, like monitoring the applications. I didn't have to get calls at 2 in the morning. And in addition, what Jose also said is that you have like a bigger overview of how the whole software development process goes. For me, that was a very nice thing, and I was able to do a lot of coding. And yeah, if you want to find me on Twitter or GitHub, those are my usernames. Slightly more about me. I work currently in a company called Element 34. So we sell a commercial product, etc., etc. We do consulting and so on. And the question I always do here is, do you know what the 34th element in the periodic table is? Well, Selenium, of course. That's where the name comes from. And I am also open source, what we call an open source enthusiast. I'm very into the community. I help to maintain the Docker Selenium images for people who want to use a grid running in Docker. Whenever there is a grid conference, Selenium conference, I help to do the Selenium grid workshop. And a small parenthesis here, there is Slack on IRC chat for Selenium. In the last slide you will see the link, but you can join for free, and most of the committers are there. We are there present, answering from the most basic questions to the most advanced cases. So it's a very open community where you can ask any question about testing or more specific questions about a test case that you're running in Selenium or Appium as well. I help to organize meetups in Berlin, Hamburg, and Madrid. And there is also another open source. That's how I got into open source with Selenium. It's called Selenium, when I was working in my previous company, Zalando. So I'm just going to talk briefly about what Selenium is and Selenium Grid, some challenges that it has. I will show different approaches for a Selenium Grid, and then I will do a demo about Selenium, the tool I developed with some friends, and then we're just going to do some questions and answers. I will try to keep it short, so you guys stay awake and interested more than that. So I'm trying this new approach where I'm trying to ask you things, but you don't have to talk. So if you want to go to the URL, you could actually see the first question that is going to pop up there. That is, if you have used Selenium. I'm just going to go here to the results. So if you go to this, I will. This doesn't work. Here is the link. And just keep it open because there will be more questions popping up. I'm sorry the link doesn't look so nice because it's just a hole that I found that is for free and it's quite nice.
Is it the for just one question?
No, there are more questions coming.
Each week or?
Yeah, no, it's the same link always. I'm trying this approach where I get a bit of the sense of how you guys are into Selenium or not, if you have used it, and this helps me to try to shape the talk as long as I'm doing it. So, great, I mean, that's very good because I would like to give you a small introduction about Selenium and also about a few tools that are very helpful with Selenium. So, what is Selenium? Selenium is a framework that helps you to automate a browser. So please keep in mind that it's only helping you to automate the actions that a real user would do with a browser. So going to a URL, maximizing the window, typing, clicking, things that a normal user does. It's mostly used for testing, but there are other applications, like when people have to fill forms, like endless forms, and they have the data in some TXT file or some Excel, so they use this for that. There is actually a very famous open source tool called Instagram, and somebody developed a robot to help people get more followers and posts and likes and follow the right people with a tool that connects to the API of Instagram and has Selenium on the background, and you just give like some tags that you want to search and like and so on. So there is a very famous tool there. So there are many use cases for Selenium. And one of the more important things right now is that it's on the way to become a W3C standard. And this means that if a browser wants to be called a browser, it has to support Selenium. So you can take many paths here, like do marketing and say that this is the tool that you have to use in the next 10 years and etc. etc. But in general, this is a good thing because this could actually empower you to do cross-browser testing, since everything should work in the same way in all the browsers. And if you have any questions while I'm talking, just feel free to interrupt me. I realize that this is very small on the screen, but what I'm trying to show here is how a normal Selenium test looks like. They're usually bigger, but what I'm trying to show here is that it has three main parts. The first part is where the connection is established. So this is line number 3 that says I'm trying to open a Chrome browser. So this is the first step. The second one is when I interact with the browser to do whatever I need to do. So in this case, I'm just going to github.com, but I could go to my e-commerce website, type things, click, go to the checkout, etc., etc. So this is the second part where I interact with the application. And the third one is normally when I do an assertion. And in this case, I'm just asserting that the title is that one. In the end, I just close the browser. So this is the normal structure of a Selenium test, if you want to call it like that. I'm going to explain how the WebDriver, so you have Selenium, which is the name of the framework, so it's like a family of tools, and the protocol that is behind this is called WebDriver. And the way this works is in a very simple way. So WebDriver is a server that is running, listening to a port, and it's an API with different endpoints. And there is an endpoint for every action that you do with a browser. So the most normal one is the first one, that is the session. So when you want to open a browser and start running a test, you open a session. But there are endpoints to type, which is called send keys. There is one to click, and so on. So this is a normal API that you can actually use, with any SDK. So on the left part, what you have is that you have your code in your laptop, and there are bindings to use this API. You have it in Ruby, PHP, Java, Python, C#, etc., etc. And this simplifies the interaction of people with this API. And then you send commands to this endpoint, and what happens is that this endpoint will receive your command, for example, click, and it will translate it to the browser language. So in Chrome driver could mean a different command, and in Firefox a different one, and so on. And when you start getting into Selenium, you start hearing things like Chrome driver, Gecko driver, Internet Explorer driver. So this WebDriver command endpoint thing is Chrome driver, and the thing is that since everything is going into the way to become a standard, then everything is implementing the same endpoints. That's the main point. And then the browser just executes whatever this thing was telling it to do. So this could be divided into parts. The client, this is the part where I have my code, and I write, click, type, drag and drop, etc., etc. And this is something that normally the bindings that are native support. So there are many, like Java, Python, JavaScript. There are also some third-party bindings that are very good, they work very well. But on top of these frameworks, there is other frameworks doing normal operations for you. So this is the client part, where I run my test, and then the other part is the server. We usually don't care about this part so much, but it has to be working the whole time. And this part, to make it short, is the endpoint that I'm hitting and the browser. So this is the server part. And to run a server properly, what do I need to do? Of course, I need the browsers, I need the browser drivers, for example, Chrome driver. I need to check the compatibility between these two, because currently the version of Chrome is 66 and the version of Chrome driver is 238, but of course 238 doesn't work with Chrome 63, for example, because there are different commands the way they were implemented. So you need to check all these details. And of course you need to put everything in the path, executable, etc., etc. And whenever there is a new release, well, you have to upgrade. This is what you have to do if you want to run a test with Selenium. Do you have enough tests in your current test suites that you need to run them in parallel? Yeah? So let's go to this part. And I have to actually click something. So the first one means that basically you run everything sequentially. The second one is that maybe you run all your tests in your laptop and you have like tons of windows popping up because you're running several things in parallel on a remote VM. Like maybe you have some like special machine dedicated to this, or you have a Selenium grid. Anytime.
Where's the URL? Yeah.
It's this one. It would not change.
You tricked me. I was hoping for the one yesterday.
Oh.
I was expecting to have a
Okay. So, cool. Most of you don't run in parallel, and some, okay, so it's like a 50-50 scenario here. Even though I see more people, but some people are not just interested. It's okay. So, Selenium Grid was born with the main intention to allow users to run their tests in parallel. Because there was a bottleneck where you have maybe, I don't know, 300 tests and you wanted to run them in parallel, there was no way. Well, the only way was actually to break your test suite and run it in different workers, perhaps. But this was a more straightforward solution. And this works in a very simple way. There is something here in the middle that you could see as a load balancer. And whenever a test arrives to this server, it will see and ask, do you want to run a test, I don't know, for example, in Chrome or in Safari? And based on that, it will check all the nodes that are connected to this load balancer that is called the hub. And based on the capabilities, that's the name of the Selenium, that's the Selenium name of this. And when you have something that wants to run in Internet Explorer, for example, it will check along this grid, and it will see that here there is a node that has Internet Explorer and Edge installed, so it can run the test there. So it will just simply route the test to this node, and it will always call the connection between both ends. Right now, with the increase of mobile applications like development and deployment and so on, Appium was born, and it basically did an extension of the WebDriver protocol, and it's called the Appium protocol. I don't know the exact name. But in the end, what happens is that you can plug mobiles, you can plug simulators, emulators, or real devices to a grid, and it works as if it was just one more browser. That's the main idea. Without going into so many details, this is the same test I showed before. So going to GitHub and checking the title. The only difference in this scenario when I'm using a grid is that in line number 3, I have to tell the test where the grid is. For example, it's running in my own machine, localhost, or in a remote machine. And then that's the only change I have to do basically when I have a test that wants to be executed in a remote machine. And going back to the previous slide, what do I need to configure? All the things I had, plus I have to install Java, I have to download and configure the Selenium jar, because this server is a jar that you start. And of course you have to check the compatibility between the Selenium version, the Chrome driver version or Gecko driver version, and keep up with the new releases. So it's slowly becoming into a DevOps job. So you can see the pattern here. And that's why this type of companies like Sauce Labs, BrowserStack, Testing Bot, and also we are having a good business because we're like taking this load from the people who are maintaining Selenium grids all over the planet. I'm going to go kind of fast during this part, and I'm going to show currently the different types of Selenium grid solutions. The first one is a homegrown, which is basically what I showed before, installing locally Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, etc., and keeping up with the releases. And this is a good exercise because that's how I started. That's how I started to learn about the grid. That's how I got all the knowledge that I have built over the years, but it requires a lot of maintenance. So you end up maintaining a server instead of writing tests and delivering value to the team. That's one of the main issues. There are solutions that are open source. They support currently only Chrome and Firefox because they are based on Docker containers. So the first one is official image of Docker, Selenium. And there is one with video that was the first project done for Selenium Grid in Docker. And then there is the one that we will do a demo afterwards. That is basically putting these two concepts into a very simple solution that everyone can use. There is also the flavor of the cloud providers. So, do you guys know Sauce Labs or Browser Stack? Have you heard of them? Yeah? And what they do is they have software as a service, so they have something in the cloud. Because as you saw, if I want to run a Selenium test in a grid, I just have to change the URL. So they put the URL there, a user and a password, and everything works out of the box. And I think this is a great solution because it just takes from you all the workload that you have to do to maintain these solutions. So sometimes you have to compute how much it costs me to maintain the solution with 1 or 2 engineers versus paying a cloud provider, I don't know, a fee for 1 year. The only downsides I see about this solution is that normally all your code is in your own network. So your staging environment, your Git repository, etc., your build system, your CI, and also your application. So what happens is that you have to open some ports from your network to actually let the browsers from the cloud go inside. So this introduces a bit of latency, but it's also really good because the price, so the return of investment is quite okay because I am not spending a lot of time maintaining the solutions. And as a side note, I think they're also very good companies because the support they do or they provide for open source. I mean, they sponsor normally the Selenium conferences, all testing conferences are present. So this is not only about like getting the money from the community, but also giving back a lot. So that's why I like cloud providers as well. And then there is us, which is like basically the same thing, but you have everything in-house. All the flavors, all the solutions are present, and if you want to talk about that afterwards, we can do it over here. So, one more question. Which of the flavors I showed are you currently using? Like, none of them? You did it yourself? You're using some sort of open source project? A cloud provider? Okay. I think this is just like, I think this is like bullying, right? For the people who answer an open source project, which one are you using? Which open source project are you using? The official one. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. I think you can
take a screenshot.
I mean, I understood the point. It's okay. So I will do a slide introduction about this project that I have worked a lot during the last 2 years. I was working in Zalando. Do you guys know Zalando? It's this German company, e-commerce website that sells clothes. And I had the chance to pair up with someone else, and we did this project, and it has gone pretty well so far. So the main idea of Selenium is that you have a Selenium grid using Chrome and Firefox in the same way as the official Docker images. And the thing is that you don't need to think about how many containers you need before running your tests. It will create containers on the fly. It's very simple to use, and whenever you need something different than Chrome and Firefox, you could have an account with a cloud provider, and this will be connected to it, and then the tests will be sent. If you want to run a test in Safari, then it will just send this test to the cloud. It has some good features like video recording, a dashboard. It works in Docker and Kubernetes if you want to go that way as well. But the main point is that we wanted to offer to the community something that was working out of the box, and you don't need to maintain it. You just need to pull the new images when they are released, and that's it. Conceptually, how does Selenium work? So there is a hub, this load balancer we were talking about. There is some auto-start proxy, and there is a cloud proxy. And they're all connected in Docker, they're containers. And let's talk about the first scenario. The first scenario is that someone wants to run a test using Chrome or Firefox. It goes to the hub, and the hub starts asking around. It says, can you run this test, which is using Chrome and Firefox, in Linux in this case? And then it will say yes, because I have the capabilities to do this. It starts the container on the fly. The container registers itself to the hub, and on the next iteration, then the test is sent to the container. After this, what happens is that the test is executed, everything went well, and this container is just thrown away. So it's destroyed, all the logs are captured, and the video is captured for you. You can actually see it in the dashboard afterwards, and that's it. The second scenario is that you want to run something that is not supported by Selenium. So you want to run something in Edge or Safari, and what happens is the same process. What you will see is that it cannot be executed here, so the test will be forwarded to the cloud, and then it just goes to any cloud provider that is present. So Sauce Labs or BrowserStack, etc., when the test finishes, the video and the logs are captured, they're downloaded from the cloud, and they're put into the dashboard. That's it. How do you start Selenium? Conceptually, something very simple. It doesn't look very simple, but it's very simple. You have to pull two images. The first one is the one that is running the browsers. The second one is the controller, the hub. And what you do here is that you start the image with Docker. You export the port, which is the standard one for the Selenium grid. You map on line number 5. You map the Docker sock, which is allowing the Selenium container to create more Docker containers. This is a technique used and called Docker alongside Docker. So this allows you to create basically more containers from a container. And then line number 6 is mapping the folder where the videos are stored to your local storage. But this is too much, so we have a one-line script. You can just execute this command to start it and stop it, and that's it. We will share the slides afterward, but in addition, there is a website with the complete documentation. So I'll do a short demo of how the tool looks and works. So I hope the internet connection goes well. I started it before, so I have it here. I executed this like around 2 hours ago, and I started the containers. So this script is just pulling the images and checking that everything's okay. Before this, I exported my Sauce Labs user and key. So it's detecting here that Sauce Labs will be enabled. And what I will do now...
The containers are running in your machine?
Yes. If I do Docker PS, I have the important ones I'm talking about. 1 and 2 nodes and the Selenium containers. This is other stuff that I was working earlier today. So if I go to the normal grid console and I refresh it, I have 3 nodes. The first one is the one for Sauce Labs. For example, I have an open source account with Sauce Labs, and they allow me to have 5 tests in parallel. So that's why I have 5 Sauce Labs icons. And the other 2 are the Docker containers I just showed, and they are able to run Chrome and Firefox tests. There is another URL where I can see what is happening inside the containers right now. So the 2 that are running with Selenium. And when I run the test, I will switch to this view again so we can see how the browser pops up and so on. And in addition, there is a dashboard. Since I don't have any tests yet, well, it's just like waiting for tests to be executed. So I have a very simple, it's not even a test, it's just a script that goes to a URL and clicks on a link, and then when it reaches that link, it clicks on another link, so it's like clicking on 5 links at the same sequentially. And I'm going to run 4 tests. Maybe you cannot really see it, but I will just show it briefly. So I will run 4 tests, one with Firefox, one with Chrome, X and Safari, going to 4 different URLs, and I will just click around things, no more than that. I can actually run this link. So when I go here to the live view, I will start seeing the browsers popping up. And what this little script is doing is just clicking around the different links. So Selenium has different features, like when the test is done or when the script is done, it will show here a pop-up saying, okay, it's done. Same thing there. Normally it will say something like test completed, but there is a feature that we have where you can say the test passed or failed, and this will be shown as a check. So when someone looks at the video, it's more visually clear. And as you can see, the containers just disconnected because they are like thrown away. They were disposed. But we have a new feature that we released 1 week ago, that it works now in a way that you can say, I want always to have 2, 5, 10 containers available. So if I refresh, I have 2 completely new and fresh containers that are not the same ones from before. So I can prove that because this was the previous one. Now we're using some random string there. And if I do Docker PS again, I have different ones that were started less than 1 minute ago. So that's something that is also pretty cool about it, that you don't need more than 30 seconds to have a browser ready to use. I'm gonna go back to the dashboard now. So another test should pop up soon, unless it failed. So what I can do is that in the first one was executed with Selenium. Oh yeah, it's there. So I have all the information that is relevant to my test, like when it was executed, what browser it used it, the version, the screen resolution, time zone, etc., etc. So for example, you can run tests using different screen resolutions. You can simulate what the resolution is for a phone, for example, and you can check that your application is actually responsive, something like that. You can test things in different time zones just by passing a capability to your Selenium test. Maybe you have applications that work in the US or in Australia, so you can actually tweak this in the environment in a very simple way to see how your application behaves. And this was the test that was executed with Firefox. As you can see, the latest version, and the same parameters as before. If I go here, I have the test that was executed in Sauce Labs. So the video was downloaded, it goes a bit slower because Sauce Labs has their data center in around San Francisco. So all these things take a bit more time. But in general, what happens is that the user experience is just one. Like you have everything in this dashboard. And one of the cool things is that this dashboard works in an offline way as well. So if you're running this in a CI, what you can do in the end is that you can archive the deliverables and you can attach them to the build, for example. And the same thing with the other one running on Microsoft Edge. It's very slow. Well, it's Windows anyway. Yeah. So one additional feature that you can try is that here I have containers that are completely fresh. So sometimes you want to reproduce a bug in some browser, and you usually have plugins installed in your browser, and your user preferences already in there. You can do manual testing here. You just do right-click, network, web browser, and you have Chrome, for example. And then you have a complete clean Chrome browser there that you can do for manual testing if you want to. And this is like from a created from scratch environment without any plugins, etc. So you can also use this type of features. I think that was it. So to round it up about Selenium is something that when we were working in Zalando, in that time we had a lot of free time, so we were able to propose the projects we wanted to work on. So what we did was this, because we were always using all the things from the community, but we never actually did something to give back. And we had the time, we have the skills, so we did something for the community. It's completely free and open source. It works in Docker, and since Kubernetes is also a trend now, since about 1 year ago, it's working in Kubernetes as well. You have the live view, the view recording, integration with the cloud, and for example, if you deploy your Selenium grid in Kubernetes, you can protect it with some basic auth, like some user and password that is also supported. Some numbers about Selenium is that almost after 2 years, the first time we showed this project was in the Selenium conference in 2017 in Austin, and since then it has grown all that much. So up to this morning I checked, we have executed 6 million tests. We know this because we have Google Analytics in the product, and we do this to collect these cool numbers that we can show them. But in addition to learn what Docker versions people are using, so we see which ones we can support, which ones we have to integrate, what cloud providers are being used the most, to see if we have to support them more or not. And one of the most important numbers into all these things is this number 27, the contributors. So at the beginning we were only 2 guys doing this, and slowly people were seeing opportunities to contribute. So if you see this, like if you go to the website and see documentation typos, or if you see something that's not working properly, you can fill an issue, you can send a pull request, and this not only applies to Selenium, but in general to the Selenium community. If you see things that you can improve, just go and please help us to improve these things. And if you like this project and if you want to use it, the only thing I ask in exchange is to put a GitHub start. That's like my I don't know, like my drive thing into the project. So this is the last question I would like to ask you. Which one would you use? Imagine that you have actually Selenium tests and that you can run them.
Yeah, open source, baby.
Yeah. Cool. This is normally what people do, because what happens is that depending on the application you have, you normally have some analytics information for your application. So you know what are the most common browsers that your clients use. So for example, if you only have Chrome or Firefox, then it makes sense just to use an open source project. You don't need anything else. But if you have things like, I don't know, a website where maybe the 30% is using Safari, then it makes sense perhaps to have a combination of an open source project and a cloud service, because you actually need to test your releases in Safari, so things work. So this is like the normal thing that we see. Cloud providers are really good when actually the latency is not so big. So if you actually are in the Bay Area, normally all those companies use Sauce Labs because there is not a big latency between their staging environments and them. So it all varies. And this was the last slide. So here are the links. The first one is the link that you can go and actually check the documentation for Selenium. Is, I think, quite complete. But again, you can contribute to it and create issues if you see that something is not complete. The second link is the one I mentioned at the very beginning. This is a link where you can go and click, you enter your email, and you will get an invitation to join the Slack channel for Selenium, where all the committers are there, where many questions are answered every single day, and it's basically the community there that is helping each other. There is a channel for Selenium if you want to go there and ask questions about it. That's my Twitter, and that's my user in the Slack channel. If you want to actually just write me right away, I'm there usually almost every single day. And yeah, that's the link of the company where I work. And that was pretty much it. So if you have any questions, I'm open to help you and answer any questions.
How do I use this with mobile devices? If I imagine I know Source Labs, it's available and I can use it. But imagine that I want to have everyday tests running on my devices, and then just before each release to run them on Source Labs. How do I handle this in-house using Selenium for example?
Yeah, what you do normally when you have tests using Appium, for example, you have some configuration in your framework where you say where is the grid or where is the Appium server that you want to use. So these are just URLs that are normally configured in some property file. And what happens here is that if you're normally using your normal or your local Appium server, in every commit maybe you're using that, but when you want to release, you use the Selenium URL if you want to. And what you do is that your test has some capability saying, I don't know, platform Android, device name, whatever, Appium version, Android version, etc., etc. And when Selenium receives those capabilities, it will see, okay, actually I cannot supply this because the containers cannot run anything with Appium, so we'll just send this to Source Labs for closer stuff. And if they cannot, then you will get an error back, and that's it. Yeah.
Hi. I would like to know if the Selenium community is working on anything to deal with flaky tests.
Every single day.
Yeah, I feel that it's a huge topic because does everybody know what the term flaky test means? It normally means that you have a test that the first time passes and everything is fine. You run it like 5 times more and it passes, and somehow one time it fails. And then you run it again and it passes. And maybe after 3 times it fails again and nobody knows why. So this is the famous flaky test, and this is what people say, I cannot trust my test because out of 10 times it failed 2, but we don't know why. So that's the famous flaky thing. And the Selenium community, we are not actually doing more than actually providing tips and guidance of what can be done, because in general there is a guideline where people that use Selenium to test, they're testing behavior. the behavior of the application. So if you click here, this happens. If you click there and type there, this happens. And when you do this, in theory, you should try to have as the lightest test environment as possible. This means that if your application has a database or an API in the back, you should try to mock as much as possible the dependencies. So when you run and you execute your application, then all these dependencies are not influencing the way your test will end up. So that's one of the main tips, that you should try to mock as much as possible your dependencies. And the second one is that you should be careful with the type of locators you use. Because in Selenium there are different ways of locate elements, like by an ID, by CSS, etc., etc. And some people like to use fragile elements that could change easily. So sometimes what happens is that in these progressive applications, the first time the page is drawn, and something on the background redraws some elements again. So perhaps you're using an element locator that is not very trustable, and then you have to check on that part. So maybe Selenium was faster the first time, and it was able to click on it before it was redrawn, but on the second time it was not fast enough. So there are many things that you can go into check about Flaky test. The most recent thing that has been commented is that, which is something that many people know already, is that you should treat your test code as production code. So actually something that Lucia was mentioning as well is that when you are adding a test, it should be also code reviewed. So not blindly trust what the test says, but somebody should also tell you, you know, like the way you're invoking the API doesn't make sense, so do it like this or that, or change the locator, and so on. So treat the test code as production code. Is another tip that has come up. But I mean, there is not a single way to solve it. I don't know if there are many more questions, but
the first tip that you mentioned, to try to mock as much as possible, doesn't that go a little bit against the ideology of doing end-to-end testing?
No, because I think I honestly think that you should try and do what works in your scenario. For example, let's go back to the Agile comment. I think Agile is very good, but if in your environment doesn't really work and something else works, then you should do whatever works for you. So in this case, mocking, I think, is very helpful when you want to test behavior, just the behavior, if the click works, if the type works, and so on. But of course, if you want to do an end-to-end test, like registering a user with the UI and going to the API and check that the API is actually returning me the user that I just registered, of course, there is no way around this. And that's actually something that you should try to, in those cases, you can try a different approach, like instead of having a staging environment shared by everyone, like deploying in real VMs, you can actually put everything, all your applications in Docker containers and do a Docker compose, and it's like a little testing environment for it. That's another approach that you can use if you want to go all the way and have an end-to-end test. Yeah, so I mean, I am also available afterwards, so we can keep talking.
Okay, so yeah. So let's wrap this up today. I would like to thank Diego and Jose and Luis over there for being here today, sharing your experience. I'm sure that your experience will help most of us today here. I would like to thank all of you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed it. And that's pretty much it. Good night and see you on the next meetup.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, of course.
Prefer in English or Spanish?
Spanish or well, Portuguese, I understand a bit.
Okay, I'll speak in English. Okay. And did you have any issues when you're trying or testing code